but I'm here.
Great
How's
to
your
see
week?
you.
Long
Dude,
week.
yeah, I love your
Long.
tip this week in the Facebook group about the
Yeah.
Spotify audiobooks
Oh
because that book,
yeah,
Clean Code, is like
dude.
a must read for anyone who wants to be a developer. Period.
Absolutely. Whatever level you are too. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're complete beginner, awesome because then you don't build the bad habits. If you're intermediate, awesome because then you break the bad habits. And if you're a senior developer, you should already be doing all that
Well,
stuff.
you know what's funny though? I think that's a good point. Is like I think when we start out learning, like we focus so much on trying to learn stuff rather than doing it right too early on.
Yeah.
And I think that is a huge thing. Like, dude, if you focus on doing these things right early, it's so much easier to transition later because you already have those skills nailed down. You're not trying to
Yeah.
then like course correct a bunch of crap. And I think yeah, it's really good. Like, and reading that kind of stuff is the best way to do it.
And
Yeah.
it's something that touches on things that even beginner coders need to know because it starts out talking
Yeah,
about naming, about
Yes.
functions, about comments, about all types of stuff that you start doing immediately as coders. And this is something that people usually struggle with when they're getting started because
yeah.
they're like, what should I name this? What should I
Yeah.
name that?
Yeah.
All
I
that
mean,
fun
it
stuff.
that literally made me think about a lot about when I first started coding because I would do some of those things where I would just name things like random,
Like X, just
yeah, like
arbitrarily, because you
name it
just.
X. And it's like, well, one of the things that I think a lot of developers don't realize is that code gets compiled. So whatever you're writing is not actually the package that's being sent to like the user. It gets compiled down into like a simpler form. So you might write a function that's like, you know, uh, load user data from database, right? That might be the name of it, but then that gets compiled down into like X, right? So that it's not like long code. But I think that was something that I did when I was first getting into development is I would write code where I'd be like, let X equal whatever.
Yeah.
And then because you think like, oh, I'm writing shorter code, it's better. But the reality is it doesn't matter. It actually makes more sense if you write the code so
Well,
that somebody can read it.
that's a good point too. Like nowadays, like this is not the 60s, 70s. Nowadays everybody that's developing and developing quickly is using higher level languages and packages and stuff that's all getting compiled into something else. It's not like you're not writing machine language or anything. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't matter in a sense what you name this stuff. So you might as well make it clear because really it's for us. It's for the people reading it. It's for you to go back and look at it and for your coworkers to understand it.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to say hello to
Heck
everybody in
yeah.
the comments. In case you're in, I don't know if we said it, but the book we're talking about is Clean Code. And it's a lot about the theory of writing clean code and maintainable code. And I think that was one of the coolest things from what I read so far was he was talking about how like a long time ago, you could actually record your coding sessions in the IDE. So it would record like everything you've done, right? As if you could watch it again, like a movie. And he said he would do that and he would play it back. And most of what he would be doing when he was doing that, can you guys guess? I mean, you probably read the book already,
I
but
know because I read the book.
yeah, most of what he was doing was just scrolling up and down, right?
Yep.
It wasn't actually coding. It was like, and then he was talking about how like most of the time it'd be scrolling up and down, and then he would, write some code, erase it, write half a function, erase it, scroll to the bottom of the page, scroll to the top of the page. And so what he came to the conclusion of is at least half of what you're doing as a developer is reading code, right? You have to read it in order to write more code. And so at least 50% of that is reading. And if we're writing code that's not easy to read, we're literally making our job harder as a developer when we're trying to write code. So he's like,
Well, it's like because no matter what you write, no matter how good it is, you're going to make changes. You're going to have to go back and look
right.
at it. There's going to be updates. Things are going to happen that you have to go back and look at this stuff. And yeah, if you don't have clear names and stuff, it just is really hard to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah,
Because it get these. I mean, even a simple web app starts to get complicated. You have a lot of
very
files, lots of
quickly. Yeah.
components. Yeah, it doesn't take long.
And it
Yeah.
compounds on itself because nobody refactors the code. They just keep adding more to what's
Exactly.
already broken.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you just wind up with this monstrosity.
Yeah. It's crazy. So anybody who has Spotify, if you haven't, I mean, I guess I knew about like
I didn't know
Spotify
they did
audiobooks, but I
that.
didn't
Yeah.
realize they had so many good ones on there. Maybe that's like something recent. Uh,
It's also available for free if you have an Audible subscription. So Amazon
yes,
Audible. So
but
it's
I don't.
available for free if you
I
have an
used to
Audible
have
subscription.
Audible and then I don't anymore. So I was like, I was considering buying it on Audible. And then I was looking for an audiobook to listen to while I mowed the lawn yesterday. And
Can't
I,
take a break from coding, can you?
I
Dude, that's
can't.
a oh,
Dude,
it's actually
sometimes this
this
is
is a
so
great time to
lame,
listen to
but
audiobooks
sometimes
and
I
stuff.
work out and I watch coding videos while I'm working out. I swear to God, I do.
That's okay though. You know,
I'm like
it's just
learning Express while doing like
yeah,
dumbbell squats or
You,
something.
you've gone too far if you bring it into the bedroom.
yeah,
Okay,
right.
there's got to be a limit.
Dude, but no, but you know, it's funny
Oh
though. I
man.
know I was thinking about that the other day. Like we've been doing this for a while now, and like it's awesome to be doing something you love so much that you still incorporate the learning aspect of it in everything you do. Because I do the same thing. Like, I love listening to stuff when I'm mowing the lawn. It's like one of the best times to listen because you can just zone
Yeah,
out, focus, and just go through the motions, you know? But like, there's nothing better than like having something you like doing that much. And it's cool to realize that
it's
that's
true.
still how much I love this, you know? That's awesome.
Yeah, kids make fun of me all the time, but it's all right. I'll handle it. Yeah, Randall says I watch Code Noob's guy videos when doing cardio at the gym. Heck yeah, man.
Nice.
That is awesome. I am
Yeah.
all about that. Yeah, like there's I know it seems so lame, but sometimes I'm like, you know what? There's just nothing better to watch. I'm just gonna learn some code while I work out because
What's
whatever.
better than learning though, dude, honestly? Like
Yeah, no, it's
and you know,
true.
it's like you're interested in it, why not? It makes more sense.
Yeah. Good morning, Eddie O'Connor. Nice to see you here, man.
So
Um,
what is our topic today?
yeah, I mean, we should probably talk about
Since we're
that.
almost
So
10 minutes
So
in.
today's topic is all about you get what you put in. And I think that's a great segue because we're talking about how nerdy we are for like listening to coding videos
Yeah.
while we work out and do all these other things. But like literally that is today's topic is we're putting in a lot of work and in learning these things, even when we're not sitting down in front of a computer, right? And so I think it's really important because when new developers, I think this is a common thing for new developers, is that when they come into coding, I see this a lot in like Reddit posts and stuff where I see people who are like, can somebody teach me to code? Are there any mentors who would be willing to teach me to code? I want to learn HTML. Somebody, can they teach me? And this is like a common thing I've seen a lot is when people come into development, I understand that it's a huge world of development. And I'm not talking about people who are saying, like, I don't know where to start. That's different. I'm talking about people who are like, I know what I want to learn, but I need somebody else to teach me that instead of me going out and getting that. Right. So I think that's really the point of today's topic is like, why do we as developers have to put so much energy into learning code on our own? And why is that important? What do you guys think?
Well, I think
Well,
one thing that's really important is kind of learning what's in your sphere of control because there's
yeah.
actions and then there's the outcomes, and everybody wants the outcome. I mean, that's why
Mhm.
we all got into coding. The money, the time freedom, the, having something to do while you're mowing the lawn, all of these reasons,
Yeah.
all of these outcomes are what we want. But really, all of that stuff is out of our control. Like you could do the best ever, and for some random chance and fate, it doesn't work out for you. It's unlikely, but it's
Yeah.
possible. But if you take action, you are almost guaranteed to have some type of result. Whereas if you don't take action and you're just hoping for a result, you're never going to get it.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
it's funny. I see this so often too. Like I saw this so much in the universities, which is, you know, we put everybody through these like through public education and stuff, and they get so reliant on having a teacher. And I think a lot of people also think of, you know, school as work instead of like learning as fun or something that's like self-betterment, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they feel like they're unable, they convince themselves that they're unable to do it without somebody there to like kind of feed it to them. And the reality is like nobody can learn this stuff for you. Nobody can make these choices for you. Nobody can like live your life for you. It's up to you. And you're gonna, you know, your results are gonna be comparable to the effort you put in and to the amount of time you put in. That's just reality.
Yeah. You know, I had a call this week, an action call with somebody who is interested in joining the Web Dev Incubator. And this really made me think about that. What you just said is that person has already done a full university degree in computer science and is enrolled in a boot camp currently and is struggling to find work. And the reason why I think is that people are looking for, and I think this is a common issue with people who join boot camps or university degrees, is that they think because I took the thing, I'm going to get the result. And
Yeah.
the truth is, this person, you know, while they do know a ton of coding languages, they're not doing anything to show off, right? They're not doing anything to show off like I am a talented developer. They haven't built any passion projects. They're doing the same exact thing as everyone else. They're just using an agency and just sending resumes without any sort of follow up or anything like that. Not building a network, not commute, like they don't have any sort of community, nothing like that. And so I think that's huge is like these people go into it's like it's something that we've seen over the past few years in software development is that people just expect I'm going to enroll in a boot camp and then I'll get a job because I took the boot camp, but that's not
That's
the
always been
reality.
true, though. People have always
Exactly.
treated education that way, like because we emphasize the result more than the journey, right? So it's as soon as I have the degree, that's all that matters, right? Then I'll get the job. And it's like, no, but you're not doing anything to, nowadays, look at college, right? 70% of kids from high school go directly into university now. It used to be like 8%. So
Yeah.
now your competition's huge. So you have to be different, right? You have to distinguish yourself.
Yeah.
Sorry, Randy, I know I cut you off.
Well, Danny and I were talking about this earlier in the week, how schools like universities and boot camps have become very predatory in what they do.
Oh
Is
God.
really
Yeah.
they could care less the outcome that you get. All they
Yeah.
want is your money. And that's the unfortunate part is after you go through it a couple times, it can be really disheartening because you're like, man, does nobody care about the outcome?
Well,
And that is where Web Dev Incubator comes in because we
yeah.
actually do care about the outcome.
Well, dude,
Yeah.
that's one of the things
Absolutely.
that like really motivated me to change careers was that like I was getting asked more and more to basically slide people through because the universities care more about them staying there and paying them than they care about, that they're actually learning anything, that they're
Yeah.
actually, with the whole point of being there, like ostensibly, they don't care because they're so interested in the money and the results that they don't care about anything else. And it's
Yeah.
sad.
I think about this too, like when I'm thinking about developers, right, and their how much they put in, I like to put myself in the shoes of the employer. Right? I don't think a lot of people do this. If you're a developer and you're out there, I mean, most of the people in this group, I think their ultimate goal down the road is to either land a job in software development or make money as either a freelance developer or like build an app, something like that. Like that's pretty much the three main goals I would say that a developer has. Put yourself in the shoes of the employer who's going to hire you at some point down the road. If I think about that employer, do I like when I think about the employer who's hiring a developer down the road, and then I think about everybody who is in our boot camp, that is the exact opposite of what I would want to hire because all of those people in that boot camp, and it's not their fault. This is what boot camps do, is they just show you a curriculum and they expect you to just blindly follow it, copy and paste code, and then once you have exposure to a language, like great, you're an expert now.
Put it on your
And
Yeah.
resume.
yeah, like, and that's what people end up doing is they end up going to a boot camp and then they put 100 things on their resume, and that's why you immediately look like a junior developer because you've put 100 very complex technologies on your resume
That
after
you don't know at all.
a 4 month
Yeah.
boot camp, and you've built
And no
nothing.
completed projects.
Exactly. So
And the worst
from
was the
the
project they even gave us was terrible. It wasn't even a
exactly,
good, like I wouldn't even want to show that to anybody if
yeah,
I was
and
using that. You know what I mean? Like,
like think about that for a second. Just like the I mean, I know people who are watching haven't, most of them probably haven't gone through a boot camp. Some of them probably have. I know some of them are in a boot camp right now, but think about that. If you're an employer, is that how you'd want your employees, your software developers to be trained? Is that what you'd want them to do is just go through that blindly and then be done with it? Or would you want them to actually build stuff on their own? Go ahead, Randall.
Unique, complex
Yeah.
projects. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really important to actually take the time to become a skilled developer because we were
Yeah.
talking about this a while ago, how there's some law, I forget the name of it, but like basically the more people in a project, the longer it
Hmm.
ends up taking, and the more
Yes.
chances there are there's going to be bugs and problems in the
Yep.
code and stuff like that. So any company is going to be better financially, but also just in the for the sake of their code in hiring the least number of skilled people as possible. So if you can't
Yeah.
complete your own projects and really know what you're doing inside and out, you're actually a liability to the company. And it would be in the company's worst interest to hire you.
Yeah. I mean, you make me think too about the difference between a boot camp and what we offer inside the web dev
Oh yeah.
incubator. Because I look at these guys who are inside the incubator, and every single one of them has a very defined focus and they're building their own things, right?
Yep.
Whether it's a simple project or a complex project, they're not just relying on somebody to just show them, okay, copy this code, paste this code, copy this code, paste this code. Everybody inside of here is like, hey, I want to build a Connect 4 app. Hey, I want to build this React app. Hey, I want to, like, they all have their own thing. And that to me is like, I'm actually very proud of that. I know I
Oh
haven't done
yeah.
any of the coding for them, right? But I'm proud of the fact that these guys are taking the initiative because that's what it means to put in what you get out, right? You
But
have to put in the work.
but that's just it though, right? Is that they're building their own stuff. We're not spoon feeding them, giving them code to copy and paste. They might come with
Right.
questions, and we don't just give them the answer either, right? It's always a work because that way, we're helping, but they're also learning how to solve problems, learning how to put a whole project together, learning how to build something and design it. And that takes, it takes time and it takes obstacles and it takes failures and it takes, you get successes too. But in doing that, they're going to be so much way beyond anybody that comes out of a boot camp. I mean, so far ahead. It's
Way
ridiculous.
beyond. Yeah. And here's two guys in the comments who are inside the web dev incubator. Bryce, who wrote, while I go through my boot camp, because he's also in a boot camp, he says he often goes on tangents to try to develop his own projects. And I think that's something that, has been fostered through his time inside the incubator because we're always like, dude, if something interests you, go for it. Like, learn more. And also, Randall said same thing for me in Calc 2 because he's a math teacher, and Randall just loves doing math. Like he'll do math while he works out, I think too. But he said, had I not have worked thousands of practice problems, I wouldn't have earned the A. And that's true. Like
Yeah.
the book, reading a book itself isn't actually putting in the work. The work is all the things that you do outside of the program that you're taking, right? Um, yeah, Eddie says, I'm taking the baby step approach. I'm taking my time trying to learn full stack through various books and a few YouTube vids, along with Code Noobs videos as well. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, anything you can do that's you putting in the time to actually learn things, mess around with it, break it. Um,
He also said he's on the fence about the boot camp thing, and I'd say honestly, like looking back, we all did one. I would not go that route. They're predatory and they just throw a bunch of stuff at you and you don't really learn anything that's really important for software development, like how to develop a project, how to actually learn the languages fully, how to actually build things. Like they're just a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Jay, like, listen to the people in the comments, Eddie, if you have questions, because all these people are inside the incubator. You see, they're the ones who show up and put in the work. Like, most of the people who attend these calls are inside the incubator because they understand what's going on. But Jay said, I'm honestly so happy how you guys have helped us. He said, Eddie, that the boot camp, in my opinion, is pointless if you're the type of person who needs time to learn. And that is true. Boot camps are going to just force you through things as quickly as possible so that they can just give you a certification.
There's a timeline too. No one can master the boot camp curriculum in the timeline they give you. It's impossible.
Yeah.
There's just not enough time to do it and not enough time to get because this is the other thing I think people forget is that like anything else, software development, it's a skill, but it's one of those things too where you need time to sort of for things to sink in and to become masterful at it. It's like, it gets easier with time, yes, but like it does take some time for this stuff to process in your brain. And I think the boot camps just rush
Yeah.
through so fast with too many things instead of
Oh,
focusing and
totally.
really learning something, you know?
Yeah, and there's no practical knowledge. You're just going to end up copy and pasting a lot of stuff, and it is like here's the
Well,
reality
like
is
what? We had a group of what, like 25 people, and of those, by like about a couple months in, I think maybe we were the only three that actually came on Saturdays with our work done. Everybody else was
yeah,
just
they just
didn't do
waited
anything.
for the instructor to
Yeah.
show them how to do it. Yeah. And here's something that I think is it this is I think the biggest issue with boot camps is that what you're getting in a boot camp is just the knowledge, right? It's just like how to code in a language, right? It could be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, NoSQL. It could be any of these things. It's just here's how the technology works. That's all that a boot camp ever gives you, right? All of that information is free. It's all free online, right? We're not hiding that. Like our whole program is, yeah, there is some curriculum, but honestly, I don't think we would even like, I think the value of the web dev incubator is there without any curriculum, right?
Yeah.
Because we show you like this is how you go out as a developer and find this information. The resources are free. You can go on YouTube, you can go on Udemy and buy a full stack developer course for $20, literally, and it teaches you everything under the sun about full stack web development. The things that you don't get are everything that we offer inside this program, which is you don't get the community, you don't get the motivation, you don't get the accountability, which I think is the biggest thing is you don't get like how like we do quarterly planning. And I know these guys just did it last week. Like I think that's huge, right?
Yeah.
Is the ability to look at where you are, look at where you want to go and build a structure to actually get there. Show me one boot camp that has that, right?
Or
One single,
24/7 support too. I mean, you know, like
right.
it none of them.
Yeah. Um, and that's the point, right? Is that putting in the work is how you actually get the job. And the boot camp doesn't encourage you to do that. That's the whole point of our program is helping people put in the work. And
I
that's
think,
going to actually end up getting a job, which
yeah,
actually now we have people inside the program who have in just a few months, right? Which is pretty cool. So
yeah.
big
So
congrats to Chris, by the way.
yeah, that is awesome. For the for putting, you know, you get what you put in. Like, do you guys have suggestions for people about how to like maximize this? Because I think like
Yeah.
one of
Go ahead,
my
Randall.
go ahead, Ryan. You already have. You seem excited about it.
Yeah. Well, I just think that you have to, if you want something, you have to take massive action. Like anything that I've ever achieved in my life, I've put in a lot of work. And when I first started, this is where the quarterly planning that we do is amazing.
Yeah.
But when I first started, I had no idea. Like I take a look at this with cybersecurity and hacking. When I first started, I had no idea what I was doing. So I just tried a whole bunch of different stuff.
Yep.
And, some stuff panned out, some stuff didn't pan out. I did a whole master's in cybersecurity that really was, I mean, I got a degree, but otherwise I would say it's completely worthless in terms of any
Yeah.
type of practical use. But like the actual, it takes a while to figure out what is going to get you the results that you want.
Yeah.
But the only way you're going to get there is by taking massive action, putting in a lot of work, and then refining that over time to figure out what's working for you and what you want.
I really like that too because I
Yeah.
remember when we decided to do the transition together and we signed up for the boot camp, like we were all working and stuff. And I basically that whole time we were in there, I made a deal with myself. I was like, I'm not gonna go out anymore to do anything like extra because I don't have like I knew I needed to like I really wanted this. It was important to me, and so all my free time got transitioned into coding. That's all I was doing, and you know it was 7 days a week. But I knew that that would pay off longer term because that yes, it's a sacrifice now, but I'm gonna build those skills that I need to actually do this thing in a shorter amount of time ultimately because I'm gonna in that year I'm gonna be way better off than I was if I kept going I kept doing stuff and kind of pushed it aside because it's easy to lose that momentum too. So I think like some consistency is really important when you're starting out
Yeah.
to keep that momentum and keep that effort in.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I mean, massive action is always the first thing if you want to actually accomplish a goal. I think the planning is very important as well, but what you made me think of was fitness, right? I've been like, that's been part of my journey this year is like working out a lot. I mean, I do always, but getting in a lot better shape has been part of my goals for this year. And I think about when people buy a fitness plan, right? Like you can go out and buy every fitness plan, every like scammy thing under the sun. None of that is going to work until you actually get your ass into the gym and start working out, right?
And the
None of
first
it
two
Well,
works.
weeks of
we're sold
January is
though.
always the
Yeah,
worst
yeah.
at the
Yeah.
gym.
Because
Yeah,
of
exactly.
all the
And the
resolutions. Yeah.
exactly. And those people, that's the other part too, is the follow through, right? And I think that's why planning is so important because it sounds great in the beginning, but then you go to the gym and you're like, oh shit, I actually have to lift these weights too. That
Yeah.
sucks.
Well, I think that's what helped us so much too, is like, having your goal clear in your mind. Like, and I think using things in your life, like I know I used like my anger at my job was a huge motivator. And then
Yeah.
having a clear goal of like, this is what I want to happen, and keeping that somewhere, like even if you write it down, put it on your wall, something so that like anytime, you look at it, you see it all the time, and that's what you're working towards. Because the great thing is like we can do anything. Like if we put our human beings are pretty amazing. Like if we put our minds to it, we can learn anything, we can master anything. It just takes really commitment to it. That's all it
Yeah.
takes.
I wanted to say something else with that too, and I think this is one of the biggest challenges for anything new that we try is that we have to build a habit around it. And so I think with coding, I listened to this YouTuber who's like a fitness YouTuber, and I watched a video recently where he was basically helping somebody go from like totally lost track of their fitness journey to like getting back into the habits. And one of the first things that he did was he asked him, he was like, what workouts do you really enjoy? Like, what's your
Yeah.
favorite workout to do? Because everybody's different when you go to the gym. Some people love cardio, some people love weight training, some people love like certain parts of weight training, like they love like bench press or something like that, right? So he asked him, what do you really like first? And I think that's really important, especially with development, is follow what you enjoy, right? If you're doing something and it's you don't enjoy it or you don't find some passion in what you're doing, then I would say don't stop, but like find a different path, right? Like I think
Yeah.
that's something like Eric inside of the group is like he's passionate about building a homeschooling app. And so that's what he's working on. And that keeps him motivated, right? So I think having that motivation is very important. You wanted to say something, Randall?
Yeah, I also want to touch on what you said about habits because people get really like off base with habits and everybody thinks, "Oh, well, it just takes 21 days to make a habit or, 3." And so
Yeah.
like here's the thing. That's like the biggest crock of BS ever because what'll happen is you'll do it for 21 days, you'll post on social media, feel really great about it and then fall off the bandwagon immediately afterwards. So like one thing that because I used to do this all the time where I would be like super amped about something up front. I'd go in like hard and heavy, just like and then just burn myself out in 2 weeks. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what I learned after a while is that I have to figure out what is sustainable for me for the rest of my life. If
Yeah.
it's something that I want to do, I have to figure out what's sustainable for me to do every day for the rest of my life. And that's the minimum. I do that. And especially towards the beginning, like if it's something where I really want to stick with this, towards the beginning, I try and err on the side of doing less than I actually want to do because then I'm really like trying to get to the next day to do it again. But if you just stick with the minimum that you can do every day for the rest of your life, you're not going to burn out and you're going to develop the habit because it's going to become part of your daily routine.
That's actually really
Yeah.
good too, because yeah, developing that habit's crucial, and not doing too much is actually good at first too, because you actually process the information too, especially when you're learning something new. Like it's like cramming. Like if you cram for a test, you won't remember anything afterwards, right? You take the test, all the memory dumps because it's like all short term. But if
Yeah.
you take your time and do it over a period of months, you'll know that stuff forever. Like, and I think that's the thing, like, and that's one of the things like everybody gets so much out of our group too is like they're running into real problems that they're solving on their own and overcoming. And that's the kind of stuff that will stay with you forever. And I think that's
Yeah.
what really like helps you stay motivated too. Because the cool thing with habits, like also is like they're hard to develop at first, but once you get in the habit of developing them, like it gets easier and easier to add new ones, which is nice. Because you've already got the routine down, that way of thinking down, where adding something else becomes even easier. So it does get easier over time too, which is cool.
Yeah. You made me think of something else that I think is very important here. And we've talked about this before, but super huge. This week I had a major accomplishment in making an app that was basically a dumpster fire turned into a piece of artwork, right? And I think this is like an important thing is that when you're starting out, and even as you're advanced, as this story is going to show you, it's very easy to get caught in the trap of just using AI to code things for you. And, you know, I'm not saying don't look at AI as a resource for learning or look at it a place to find answers,
It's an
but
awesome tool. Yeah, it
it's an
is.
amazing tool, but it's how you use it, right? If you let it code for you, you're never going to learn anything. And that's basically what I was running into this week was I was working on a piece of code with another developer, and they basically took everything that I wrote and just fed it into AI and then just put it back into the code, and it turned into absolute junk, right? And so I spent the past probably 10 hours of the past 24 going through that code and fixing it again because I actually understand and can read what's going on. Whereas AI can only read one file at a time and doesn't really have a full picture of what we're trying to
Well,
build.
AI too, it's a predictor of the next word. That's all it does. It
That's
guesses
all
the
it
next
does.
word.
Yeah,
That's all it's able to do. And I think,
exactly.
that's a great example too of its limitations. Like it is, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing tool, especially when you're learning because it can be
Yeah,
such a nice resource. It's fast. It kind of like takes everything about Google and even condenses it, makes it better. But like you said, you can't rely on it, and you need to understand this stuff yourself because then
yes.
you can actually look at the response that it gives you and
And say,
evaluate it.
is that
Yeah, and know if it's
working?
actually
Yeah,
right or if it's like, best practices. And I think that's the thing too, is like putting in that effort also means like, not copying and pasting, typing out all the stuff if you are following along with something,
yes,
doing it on your own. Like we talked about this before where we found this really cool course with like when we were learning early on, it was like learning React and Firebase. And it was a 5 hour video. I think it took both of us like over a week to do it because we were
totally.
coding out everything. It's like a five
Yep.
hour video turned into like a week long project. And I was spending, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 hours a day on it.
And
So
those,
like,
I can think back, and those were by far the most important hours that I ever spent
yeah.
coding.
Oh,
Those those early lessons where I went through a project, and it was a 5 hour project that took 24 hours to actually code. I learned more in that coding session in those 24 hours than I've learned with every other project that I've ever built. And it's because that's how you actually get the knowledge is you have to put in the work. If you're typing into ChatGPT and you're like, and Jay said this in the group here is ChatGPT has honestly been a lifesaver while I'm learning JavaScript. And it's true, right? It is a lifesaver. It's something that's going to help you a lot as a new developer, but only if you're using it as a mentor, right? If I'm a mentor, I'm not going to just say, hey, you have a question, here's the code, and then you just paste that into your project. I'm going to help you understand what's going on in that code. So if you use it in that way, as if it's a mentor, I think it's very helpful. If you use
well,
it just to like write code for you, it's shooting yourself in the knee.
well, that's the cool thing about, right? If you understand what's going on, and like that's why like coding out these projects is important because you see how things work together and you see how things are interacting, and then you understand it. So then moving forward, it's so much easier to do these things because you know what to expect. You can predict kind of like what kind of patterns you're going to see, that sort of thing. It's really cool. But yeah, I think it is. It can be a very huge detriment to people because if they're just using it's a neat tool and you can kind of just put in prompts and it'll send stuff back to you and you can copy and paste it and like some of it works, so it's
Yeah.
cool and like yeah, it can be a real trap.
Yeah, it can. Eddie in the comments says he's already subscribed to, I guess, Free Code Camp, and they have tons of good videos, which is true. If you guys are new, that's a great resource for you. And they have an entire course that's for like 15 hours. Yeah, because it literally takes that long. And that's somebody going through a course where they've already made a project and they already have the code sitting there and they're just copying it into like onto the screen that you're seeing. It should take you way longer than that for most courses. Like if you're doing some of these courses on Free Code Camp or anything else, you should be taking easily 24, 36 or more hours. I mean,
I
I've
would say
seen
like 4 or 5
courses that
times
are,
the length of the video, basically is a good
yeah, especially when
parameter.
you're
Yeah.
starting, because you're going to have to, this is something that like gets better as you become more of a developer, is typing things and watching other people code, because you can sort of predict what they're going to write. But when you're first starting out, you're going to have to pause the video a lot, go back in the video a lot. Also, you have to comprehend what's going on. If you're just watching a video and just typing what they type, that's the same thing as using ChatGPT to copy and paste code. You have to comprehend, why did they choose to do this? What are they doing with that code, right? That is putting in the work.
You just remind me of something too, and this goes back to like listening to CleanCode when you're mowing the lawn, right? Which is
Yeah.
when you're doing these videos too, when you run into questions you have, go look up the information, understand what's going
Yes.
on, read an article, go to NDN, go wherever the resources are, but find it, get help, understand, then move on. But don't move
Yeah.
on until you get a good idea of what's going on, you understand it, because then you'll actually grasp the full project. Even a little thing, if you let it go, by the end, you won't understand how the whole thing works because it all works
Exactly.
together, like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys get the point. You got to put in the work to get the result. That's just how it is in everything in life, but in software development, it's like that more than anything else. I mean, the most senior developers that you have seen everywhere, they didn't they weren't born amazing software developers. They weren't born software developers at all. They just put in the work more than other people have, right? So put in more work than other people have, and you'll get the result that you want. Go ahead, Randall. You had something
And
to
the
say?
cool thing about development is oftentimes you only have to put in the work once, and then whatever you put
Yes.
in the work on pays off time and time and time again.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
for
you
sure.
just need to put it in once.
Yeah. So with that, if you guys are interested in learning more about the Web Dev Incubator and what we offer, which is not a boot camp at all, not a boot camp. We offer a community. We offer an opportunity to get yourself job ready. We offer you an opportunity to build real projects that you can put on your resume, because your crappy boot camp certification ain't doing shit. When an employer
Nope.
wants to hire you, they're going to look at what you've actually built, right? So you want to be
Well,
able
that's
to
the other
build
that's the
things.
other unique thing about this area is that employers can look at your actual work, which you did,
Right.
right? Which in a lot
Yeah,
of jobs they can't. They can only get
exactly.
references and stuff. This they can literally look at your code. So you have to have projects that are out there in the world and that work and that are complex. I think that's important, and that's what we offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested, you can go ahead and put the word work in the comments and we'll reach out to you. Or we'll throw a link down there for a free action call. The action call is just a way for us to give you some free mentoring, and then also talk to you about the Web Dev Incubator, see if you'd be a good fit. This week, I am traveling, and I think because I'm traveling, we're gonna wait one more week, and then that's it. We're done with beta after that. So if
Yeah.
you want to get in for the super low cost of beta and get all the same value that you will when the full program launches, now is the time to do it. So schedule that free action call. We'll have a chat with you, see if you'd be a good fit, see if it's for you. Otherwise, you're just basically making yourself pay more for the same thing. And
And real quick before
who
we
wants to do
end,
that?
Bryce just said, he says, I'm in a boot camp because he's in a boot camp as well and the Web
Yeah,
Dev Incubator. And he says he's getting way more out of the Web Dev Incubator, which he should be.
yeah,
I mean, obviously, we built it for that reason.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, if you're considering a boot camp or the Web Dev Incubator, I think the
There's no
choice is
question.
clear here. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's just way more value. You get way more out of it, and that's because we help you put more into it, right? A boot camp's just going to be like, here's the same free information that's everywhere else, but we just take thousands of your dollars for that. Whereas we're showing you how to actually be a developer, how to get job ready, how to build projects on your own. We build them with you. You get 24-hour support whenever you need it. I mean, there's just so many advantages to this that you don't get inside of boot camp. So if you are interested, we're happy to have a conversation with you. If it's not for you, that's fine. No problem there. So with that, anything else you guys want to?
Nope. We're
All
good.
right. thank you all for tuning in. This Saturday, we will see you next Saturday at 9 a.m. For anybody inside the Web Dev Incubator, we'll see you in about 20 minutes for our accountability and mentoring call.
Our private Zoom calls that are only
Yes.
available
Private.
for
Yeah, you actually get to get on a
members
call
of-
like this with us, right? And then you
Yeah.
can just talk to us instead of being in the comments. So if you want to get out of the comments, join the
There
Web
you go.
Incubator. All right.
See you
See
soon,
you
Chris.
there, Chris. All right. See you guys. Have a good Saturday.